Mr. Niven, Mr. Niven. Oh, no, not Mr. Niven?
Please don't embarrass me.
Okay. Niven. When the Second World War broke out, a lot of actors went into the army, and you got a telegram. Were you summoned in?
No, I actually wasn't. I was not on the reserve of the British Army, but I did the, waving the sword thing.
Yeah.
And I told Goldwyn, I was under contract to that I'd been called back,
Mm-hmm.
And of course, as usual, he was much smarter than I realized. So he called Washington and checked with the British Embassy, and they weren't calling anybody back. This is the beginning of the war in 1939.
Hadn't you gotten a wire of some kind?
No, I got my brother to send me one later.
Oh, that's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But and off I went, 6.5 years. Gone.
Well, there was kind of a prejudice against actors in the military. I know. I always read that Clark Gable had a rough time because they figured, here's this fancy guy that we've seen on the screen, and now he thinks he's a soldier.
I think there was. I think that they just didn't believe it, and all these terrible generals and people saw, and they would say things like, well, why don't you go on entertaining us instead of running about with a uniform on? They were charming, really.
As if that were men's work and yours was frivolous.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we muddled through.
Yeah. What was the closest shave you had in that time?
Oh, well, I don't know. I was in it a long time, And so many people had much worse times than I did that I don't, if you'll forgive me, I don't want to look like some semi-hero. I certainly wasn't. Nobody more terrified than me. But I got the Iron Cross, though, which was something. And in Normandy, about 3 days after the landing, there was one tiny bridge at a place called Canton. It's no bigger from there to here, which connected the American First Army and the British Second Army. And we had to cross this damn thing, and it was being shelled all the time. And so they had some holes you popped into if there was any rudeness, you see. And I was going over this bridge in a Jeep, and they started pooping off at it, so I popped out into the hole. And when it was over, and the bridge was mostly gone, and I looked out, and right in the hole next to me was John McClane. John McClane was a very respected critic for the Journal American for Broadway, and a great, sweet, wonderful, fat, lovely friend of mine. And he was dressed up as a lieutenant in the American Navy, sitting in this hole next to me with his head sticking up. And I hadn't seen him for a long time. And so McClane, we had this reunion, you can imagine, gave me the Iron Cross. And what had happened was that Cherbourg was still full of Germans and having a very rough time in there, so the general defending Cherbourg, called von Schleben, was handing out Iron Crosses to the defenders to keep them happy, to make them braver. And he ran out of Iron Crosses, so they signaled to Germany to get some more. And a fighter plane came over and dropped a whole bag of them. And they dropped them on McClane. And so he had this big bag of Iron Crosses, and he gave me one. I had it for a long time during the war.
So you were here on our side and their side.
On this side.
Yeah. You should have gotten one for an opening night that you went through with Gloria Swanson, actually.
Okay. But right near here, too. Right near here.
A couple of blocks away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Utter disaster. It was a play called Nina, and, oh, God. And Gloria is not very tall, And she played my mistress, and there was one other fellow in the cast, Alan Webb, and he was the husband. And Gloria has a clothing company, or she had then a clothing company on the side in case, for the actors should, like have a bicycle shop or something against the rainy day. And Gloria had this clothing company called the Pilgrim Something Corporation. And she had a clause in her contract that she should design and wear her own clothes in this thing. And I thought she wore some very strange garments indeed. And the opening night on Broadway, very smart, with the Luntz, Rex Harrison, everybody, Tallulah out there. I'm gibbering with fright. First time on Broadway, and there I am, waiting for my mistress to come on. And the bell rang, and I went to the door, and here's Swanson in a sort of black taffeta tent with her head sticking out like a most awful sight. So she came on, and there was a gasp of horror mingled with the applause, and I had to kiss her in this big meeting. And I grabbed her, and I tried to smile. It was fatal, because my lip got stuck, and I was like this. Mad. It was a terrible, leering gopher, and I grabbed her and squeezed through fright too hard in the initial clinch, and there was suddenly a loud report. And a sort of twanging noise, and 4.5 inches of white whalebone came out of her chest and right up my nose, right on the end here. And And the audience, you see, they adored this. They thought it was part of the plot. They laughed. And she stirred around down here, and the thing was up in the scroll bones, up in the sinus. Tears are pouring out. Anyway, in the morning. Oh, and then I finally said, what? And she looked up, and she said, ooh, she started to pull it, you know. And the whole dress, it was awful. And in the morning, I've still got the clipping. Walter Kerr, Herald Tribune. Mm-hmm. We understood from the program that Miss Swanson designed her own clothes. Like the play, they fell apart in the first act.
When you first came here, people didn't understand English accents, that there were not that many movies, not that much television. People were not exposed to the English accent.
No television at all, and none at all.
No television,
and they didn't go to see English movies in the States because they really did not understand the voice. I mean, I'm sure you're all having terrible trouble tonight, but before it was ununderstandable. But now I think the ears are tuned in better.
The world's gotten smaller. You were in, to coin a phrase, you were in early television. And how often do you do that thing where you put yourself into a dangerous situation in order to demonstrate, is it to yourself, your control of nerves? I'm thinking about a thing in the book where you were on a live show, and at 5 minutes before airtime, you were not dressed.
Well, I did it on purpose. I thought, now this show is pretty bad, but it was a big one, a very big one, done from here in New York, big one. Millions of viewers, you know. And I thought, now the show is no good. And there's no point in being frightened because it's bad anyway, and we all look like runaway rocking horses, you know, trying to remember. And so I thought, now if I appear calm, and I'm laughingly referred to as the star of the thing, that if I am appearing calm, this will communicate itself to the others. And this in turn will recommunicate itself to me. Well, of course it didn't, it was a shambles. And my idea of being calm was I was playing an attorney or something, so I left my coat, hat, briefcase, and umbrella in my little dressing room off the stage there, and wandered about 5 minutes before airtime. And the assistant said, David, I said, no, please, just relax. We have 5, try not to throw up now, of course. I said, we have 5 lovely, long, cool minutes before we have to do this awful show in front of 80 million people. But in the meantime, let everybody, you know. And he said, I said, look, just give me 2 minutes, and I go to my room, I get my hat, the briefcase, and the umbrella. No panic. Now, I became, for the first time, I think, what Americans hope the British are. I was Gibraltar. And I was followed by these admiring eyes. I really was doing very, very well. And George Hicks, the great announcer, was going to the mic to announce the wares of the company, whatever it was. And he said, David, I said, right, now I go to get my hat, the briefcase, the umbrella, and with the measured tread of a London bobby now, I walked off there into my little room, and I locked myself out. Inside is the hat, the briefcase, and the umbrella, and I'm now transformed into a shrieking, gibbering banshee. Help! Help! And the poor George Hicks is on to the accompaniment of axes. 2 firemen, boom, boom, wallop, wallop. And I finally came on with my hat on the briefcase up, the hat on and the wood chips. Oh, don't.
And the show was on the air while they were chopping away in the dressing room.
Well, he was on, the poor announcer was, chopped down, and I came on with, no, don't.
Again, you like to live dangerously, skiing or...
Hideous mistake.
Whatever it may be. Have you ever... Oh, that's right.
Can I?
Sure. People will imagine that there's something in there that's of a spirituous nature, so that brings me to a good point. You know, whenever an actor takes a glass of water or anything on camera, or coffee or beer or whatever they have, people think that they're, you know, that they're drinking heavily. Have you ever gone on stage just with a skin full?
Yes. Yes, I have. In the early days, my early days in Hollywood, the only way into Hollywood as an actor really was right there. There was no television, so they didn't see somebody being awfully good on a show and then take them out. Mm-hmm. And I mean, stars certainly were brought out from Broadway, but the rest of us had to hack it through there. So there were lots of little theaters around where we got groups together, and the as extras and got groups together. And then scouts from the studios came around and watched it. And the best one was the Pasadena Playhouse, which is a famous one. And Goldwyn had just signed me up, and I got a job at the Pasadena Playhouse in a play called Wedding. And I was one of 62 guests in this play. And my part, I swear to you, was this. In the first act, I came on with this bowl of punch. And it was very important, because underneath it was a message for the leading lady. I don't know what the hell it was all about, but it was underneath this bowl. So I came on with this bowl and put it on the table like that and exit that side. And that was the first act. In the second act, I had to recognize another guest. I had to come on and go and off that side. No, the third act was my big moment, and I had this snatch of conversation with this idiot, this fool, this oaf. And I had to say to him, he's now a dentist in Omaha somewhere. Anyway, sweet man, but he made an awful mess that night. Because he had a whiskey called Mr. the Moors, which he found. It was made in Japan. I think it was absolutely awful.
Mr. the Moors.
So my third act was with him, and I had to say, I tell you, on a balcony upstairs, I had to say, I tell you the King of Siam does. And so he said, well, I know the King of Siam, and I tell you he doesn't. And I had to say, oh. And that was my part. Now,
How do you learn all that stuff?
So I went all over Hollywood, not lying too much. I said, I'm playing with a very interesting girl at the Playhouse. So I think if she has a break, she'll do very well. And so the word went around that I was starring in this thing. So the opening night comes, and all I have my bowl of punch, and we have the Mr. the Moors going, like this, in our little cubicle downstairs. And up goes the curtain, and on I go with the bowl of punch to a thunderous hand. And I did the full unforgivable. I put the bowl there and did this to see who was out there, But it was Herbert Marshall had brought a surprise party of 40 big stars, like Charles Boyer, Charles Lawton, Myrna Lloyd. It was, all big stars sitting out there. And I panicked. And I went off with the bowl of punch, thereby wrecking the entire play, because underneath it was this note. Downstairs, and I said to this man, this terrible thing's happened. He said, oh, have some mist, Dave. So we're into the mist. So now the second act came. I thought, I've got to get across without them seeing me. So now comes the third act. By now, stoned, gone, belligerent. I said, now look, many of these people have come all the way from Malibu to see me. So the hell with the balcony, we're going right down to footlights. So I took this poor man by the arm. I said, led him right down. I said, now listen, I don't want to impose my rather strong personality on your very dull brain, but I have it right from the horse's mouth. I have it on the very finest authority that the King of Siam does. And he said, oh. Anyway, then we tottered off, and the owner of the theater said, get out of my theater. That was fired. Yes.
And from that day forth, you've learned a lesson about...
I learned about that because the source on the stage is a great mistake, I think, because you think you're much better than you are,
Yeah. The idea of shielding your eyes to see who's out front.